Today on Have You Played? Take me to your Fuhrer. It's not adrenochrome, it's Wolfenstein Youngblood. And a high-class game Andrew Taylor once described as his go-to RTS. That's right, Warhammer 40K, Donna War. Ready or not, it's game time! And now, two men who can't explain the rules of baseball. Your hosts, Andrew Taylor and Matt Hall.
Crack open your gaming juices and take a swig, gamers, because it's time for a brand new episode of Have You Played?
That's right, my name is Matt Hall.
And I am Matt Hall.
That's not true. Today, what is true is that we have two really great games we're going to be looking at for you. We are going to be reviewing and discussing Wolfenstein New Blood and also
Warhammer 40K, Dawn of War.
Wow, more Warhammer, more shooters. Could it get any better than this? I don't even want to ask that question, but I already did. Anyway, let's get to our first review. Here is Wolfenstein Youngblood 3D.
Wolfenstein Youngblood is a 2019 spin-off title in the long-running Wolfenstein series. Billed as the first modern co-op Wolfenstein adventure, the story picks up 20 years after the events of Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. In the most recent string of Wolfenstein games, the Nazis won World War II. New York gets hit by an atomic bomb, America is in shambles, and it is only through the efforts of a ragtag crew of idealized social justice warrior archetypes that the Nazi threat is pushed out of America for good. At this point in the timeline, Wolfenstein protagonist BJ Blazkowicz and his wife Anya are raising twin daughters, Jessie and Zofia. BJ disappears, and his daughters do some sleuthing to find out that he is left on a secret mission to assist a resistance group in Nazi-occupied France. The girls, along with their pal Abby Walker, steal an FBI helicopter and some power armor suits and go off to try and rescue dear old dad. They're greeted by Juju, leader of the French resistance, who informs them that BJ was last known to be trying to gain access to a top secret Nazi lab, Lab X. In order to enter Lab X and possibly find their father, the girls must hack the computers found deep inside of a trio of security towers, known as Brother 1, Brother 2, and, unsurprisingly, Brother 3. While I know that Youngblood is a co-op game, I don't really love playing co-op online and decided to partner up with an AI sibling on my quest to find our father. I want to say right now that I'm a huge fan of the Wolfenstein series in general, and I have been ever since I first played Wolfenstein 3D on my cousin's computer somewhere around 1993 or 94. I've completed almost every entry in the series and was extremely excited when I found out about Youngblood. However, this game really fell short of my expectations. The first thing I want to acknowledge is the overall tone of the game. One major criticism of the New Colossus was that it had a very uneven tone. One minute you're fighting Nazis, the next you're given a poop joke.
Is this a working toilet I see before me?
We're expected to be emotionally attached to these characters and their incredible struggle against a truly monolithic threat, but the tension that is built up is often interrupted by shit like this.
I'm sorry, did you need this quote?
Yes, motherfucker.
Another criticism was that the cast of the game looked like it was dreamed up by some Nintendo Switch-loving bug man wearing a #resistpussy hat. You've got scary yet somehow impotent Nazis on one side, and on the other side you've got the black power lady, the self-hating fat white girl, the man with a sunken head, the balding effeminate conspiracy theorist, the wise old Jewish scientist, and the womanizing African dude. It was like they did a temperature check of the social climate at the time and tried their best to look progressive and inclusive, but I'd argue that forcing a bunch of exaggerated stereotypes into a game that's essentially a murder simulator isn't really going to do anything to better society. Regardless, I had a really great time playing the game, but maybe the inclusion of giant mommy milkers in the final cutscenes altered my judgment somewhat. I bring all this up because even though I think the New Colossus was at times an awkward attempt to appeal to PC culture, the tone in Youngblood is so jarring and so poorly balanced that I often felt secondhand embarrassment for the game. This starts pretty quickly too. The girls make their very first kill and go from being terrified and disgusted to uncontrollably guffawing at Jess getting Nazi brain in her mouth after a particularly gory headshot. This is the loop for these two, going from tense, emotionally scarring scenarios to laughing at one another like some sort of modern marketing team's reimagining of Beavis and Butthead.
With this sticky wicket. Fuck yeah.
Speaking of loops, that's all this game really is. You often have to literally loop through the same stages to level your character up to the recommended stats in order to take on some of the later areas of the game, but Aside from the basic layout of the maps, the gameplay is extremely repetitive. Traverse an area, find loot, kill the infinitely respawning Nazis, and free hostages. While the maps do shake things up a little bit, once you actually enter the Brother Towers, you repeat the same exact actions every time, the only difference being the level of the enemies within the towers. The intro of the game features a sort of boss fight, as does the very end of the game, but everything else in between is a giant pile of samey mush. This samey mush has responsive controls and tight shooting, and I do love filling Nazis with bullets, but I think I finished the campaign out of spite more than anything. I can see how playing this with a friend would make the game a bit more enjoyable, but only because I'd have someone else around to make fun of how repetitive the gameplay is and how fucking stupid most of the cutscenes are. The last few years have seen a trend emerge where a popular IP is taken, the often white male protagonists are replaced with women or people of color, and then the product is repackaged and sold as some sort of exciting new take on the franchise. I don't really mind that process in theory, but all too often the resulting media is just a lesser version of the source material with a diversity sticker slapped over it. There are plenty of people who are not straight white men making things out there, new and original things that are definitely worth your time. Wolfenstein Youngblood felt like they took the core of the new Colossus, slapped 2 girls into the role formerly held by BJ Blazkowicz, and then removed any of the storytelling, level design, or ingenuity that made the previous Wolfenstein titles great. The whole thing feels like this weird halfling attempt at both a games as a service type game and an actual campaign, story-driven first-person shooter. If you're a hardcore Wolfenstein fan, pick it up on sale sometime, but I'd recommend any other game in this series over this one.
You know, after watching that review, I think I'm wrong. That game fucking rules.
That game looks really cool, Matt.
No, I'm sorry. It's really just okay. Have you played Wolfenstein Youngblood?
Well, I'm very impressionable, Matt, but I have not played Wolfenstein New Blood 3D Colossus.
It seems like they took the engine that the last Wolfenstein game was made on and just kind of tried to make a quick co-op shooter, online shooter service game out of it.
Is there really a lot of those like weird like 2 people banging and like poop scenes?
Well, that was in the previous Wolfenstein game, where the tone in that game, people really criticize the tone. This game does have a lot of dumb sex jokes, poop jokes, fart jokes. I guess, yes, it does. Yeah, they continued that same trend, but it's even more awkward here for somehow. I don't know, there's like something so unpleasant about these characters. My girlfriend was around while I was playing this game and it would just kind of be like, ugh, like at seeing some of the cutscenes because they're very unlikable characters.
Does it feel like they're trying to take like a Dumb and Dumber kind of approach to it, where it's like they're 2 kind of unlikable dopes, but you still kind of root for them? Is maybe that the goal and it didn't really hit the mark, where at least as far as the story is concerned?
Again, this is the uneven tone where they are like a Beavis and Butthead, Dumb and Dumber style pair of idiots who like to, you know, give little pull my finger style jokes all the time. Mm-hmm. But also they had the resources to steal an FBI helicopter and travel across the world to infiltrate a secret Nazi base. You know what I mean? It's like, how dumb are they? And also they were raised by Blazkowicz on the land and they've been, you know, living in this sort of, off the grid place with their parents, and they've been trained as warriors from birth. And you know what I mean? It's like, it just doesn't really line up. I don't know who this was made for, really. Yeah.
Well, don't fret, Matt. We still have one more game to review today.
Oh, okay, what is it?
It's called Warhammer 40K Dawn of War. Well,
4?
No, it's the first one, but
Okay.
it's 40K.
But it's the second game we're talking about today.
And it's the second game we're talking about today.
Warhammer 40K Dawn of War is a 2004 real-time strategy game developed by Relic Entertainment, and I think it's my go-to RTS. The music was created by renowned composer Jeremy Soule, probably most famous for his iconic work on the Elder Scrolls series. In short, Dawn of War feels like a 40K reskin of Warcraft 3, but with many, many differences.
Hey, what are these letters burned on my ass?
The campaign sees you taking control of the Blood Ravens, a mysterious chapter of the Emperor's Space Marines, as they land on a planet aptly named Tartarus. You save a deployment of the Imperial Guard against an attacking orc wog, which is like a giant war that the orcs are waging against you, and begin deducing what's really going on Tartarus.
Them humans is in for a good stomping.
I won't get into the story too much, but I found it very compelling, if a little predictable. I'm kinda struggling to really explain how Dawn of War plays. If you've played Warcraft or any similar RTS, then the game will feel very familiar and comfortable to you. The campaign does a decent job of teaching you the ropes with a Space Marine army. Essentially, you establish a base, build new structures with different benefits, capture strategic points on the map, and demolish the enemy. Capturing one of these strategic points will generate the requisition resource while the point stays under your control. All factions handle resources in different ways, but generally, requisition and power are required to build things. In addition to the strategic points, there are other various kinds of capturable points on the map, such as the slag deposits, that have other mechanics and benefits. Unlike other RTS games, in Dawn of War you generally produce squads rather than individual units. For additional resource, you can add reinforcements to these squads, as well as a sergeant unit and weapon upgrades, allowing for squads with very specific focuses. Your units also all have a morale bar in addition to their health. This morale is depleted by many different things like squad member deaths, fighting too often without a break, and other awful things.
We's all gonna die!
When morale is down, your squad's effectiveness is reduced, but fortunately, units like sergeants and commissars can rally the troops and regenerate morale. Though at least for the commissar, that requires executing a squad member as a threat to the surviving members.
I hear and I obey.
Many of the missions allow for my favorite method of winning an RTS round. Taking your time and slowly amassing a gigantic army, then sending them to the enemy base and absolutely demolishing them. But don't get too comfortable doing that, because other missions require different approaches like stealth or time-sensitive events requiring quick action. This game is so big and unique that I feel like I'm having a hard time explaining everything about it in this short time, but I'd say Dawn of War is another must-play for 40K fans. There's tons of huge DLC expansions, and the entire series goes on sale pretty often. Pick your favorite faction and wage some war.
We've been overrun! I stand ready to serve the Emperor. Time for payback.
Hey, that game seemed like it was pretty good.
That was a pretty good game, Matt. It's pretty good. I gotta ask you, have you ever played Warhammer 40K Dawn of War?
No, I've never played Warhammer, nothing,
Oh,
ever.
you're just not interested?
It's not that I'm not interested, it's just that, there's so many games out there. It's just a series I haven't gotten to yet. And it doesn't help that every time I look at the Warhammer series, there's like 86 games and expansions on sale on GOG or whatever. Like every time I'm like, oh, maybe I'll, you know what? I'll go for something else. A game with only 12 games in the series, maybe.
Yeah, maybe instead of like 50.
I don't know when StarCraft launched, maybe 98 or 99.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like I played Commandos and a couple other games around that time. I was pretty into those types of games, late 90s, early 2000s. I've been wanting to revisit something like that. But every time I go to like play some of the older ones, like I'm a little overwhelmed, which I don't understand how as like a 12-year-old, I was more ready for it than I am as a 46-year-old male. But
I feel like you have a different level of understanding as an adult than you do as a child. But as a child, you reach your ceiling quicker. So you think you know a lot more about it, but as an adult, it takes you a little bit longer. Because I have a lot of time sunk into this game. It took a lot of time just to beat the regular campaign, which I appreciate. But there was a couple bumps in the road. I did have a couple technical issues, or I was like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? And then I would lose after like 45 minutes of gameplay in one round, and I'd be like, oh my God, total nerd rage moment, and have to pick it up in a couple days because I was like, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. There was a couple gotcha moments like that. So it's also so big, I don't know what to say about it. It's one of those things. I think if you're a 40K fan, you should give it a shot for sure. But it would be hard to recommend to Joe Gamer or a new 40K fan. I think it'd be too much.
well, let's just say this. There's plenty more Have You Playeds coming out in the future, and you'll be covering every single Warhammer game over time, so look forward to that, okay?
Yes, every single episode from here on, Matt, is going to be another 40K game.
Can't wait. I'm glad you come over. I'd really like to play Donna War.
You want to play Donna War? She's a high-class dame, Maddie.
No, 40K, Donna War.
40K? That's insulting. She's worth more than that.
No, the game.
Game? I don't care if you've been practicing your pickup artist skills. She's a woman, not an object.
No, Donna War.
That's what I'm saying. Don't you even try. They don't call her War for nothing.
Who are you talking about? I'm talking about Donna War.
Yes, exactly.
Ah, forget it. I don't even give a darn.
Give a darn? That's our shortstop.
Well, Matt, that was 2 games with mixed reviews, and I'm feeling some sort of way about it.
Yeah, I'd say both were titles where they weren't so bad that we wanted to not play them, but not so incredible that you have to like recommend others play them.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of games that people have played like that. Maybe in the comments you could tell us what games you played and don't regret playing but didn't really love.
Yeah, you're not gonna go proclaim to the world that they must also play this game. And the other thing you could do while you're at it down there is go ahead and reply to any other comments and start a flame war. Or you could give this video a big thumbs up, give us a subscribe, and be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook. We're actually going to be streaming on Facebook. You can check our live streams there, and also check our YouTube channel here for a bunch of other videos. My God, we must have 197 videos.
Wow, that's a very specific number. And if you don't want to miss any of those videos, I know you know how to do this already, but it really helps us out if you smash that bell button. Is that what it is?
Sure, smash the bell button
to get a notification every time a new video comes out.
Yep, that's it. Anyway, see ya.
Oh no.